and welcome back to this week's edition of Hawk Talk. I'm Ellie Hanser.
And I'm Seth Morkirky. I honestly couldn't resist this opportunity to come on to Hawk Talk. We have a guest who I've been looking so much forward to having you on. He's got some roots here on Hawk Talk. So I'm going to go ahead and let you introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you're doing here at DSU.
So my name is Steve Easton. I am a DSU alum, and I am currently serving as the interim president of the university.
And you might recognize that last name, Nate Easton. Mm-hmm. I mean, one of the creators, one of the co-founders
Hawk Talk legend.
Hawk Talk,
at least in our family, yes.
Well, he's a Hawk Talk legend around here.
Yeah.
So we're excited and honored to have you here on the show. It's been, 7 years in the making, so we're excited.
Yeah, Nate was a student here and is now at the University of Connecticut pursuing his PhD in business.
Just making big strides in the world. We love that.
It gives us new hosts something to look up to.
Look forward to.
Yeah, UConn in the future for me, I think. Yeah, I think that's the way it works.
That's good.
As we said, you have some Dickinson roots. You graduated here in 1980. What made you want to come back to Dickinson?
I hope this doesn't sound hokey, but it's just Dickinson State was an incredibly important institution in my life. This is I not only got a great education here, my degree focused on accounting, and then I went to law school after that, and I had a great education here. But Dickinson State was the place where I got the confidence to go on in life. I was like Nathaniel. I was a struggling member of the golf team. Sometimes made the varsity, sometimes didn't.
Yeah.
And Nathaniel, he's Nate here. And also I did some theater here, and I was not great at either one. But Dickinson State gave me the chance to shine a little bit, and I think that's one of the things that's really special about Dickinson is that. People have opportunities, and you don't have to just concentrate on one. A lot of big schools, you have to basically say, I'm going to have one focus. And I meet so many students at Dickinson State that have 2 or 3 passions that they're able to pursue.
Yeah.
So it's just a really important institution. And in our family, Nate and I are actually the 3rd and 4th generation because both of my grandmothers were Dickinson normal graduates in the very early days of what's now Dickinson State University, and my dad also. Was a Dickinson State graduate. So we have 4 generations in our family.
Yeah. That's good. You said that DSU, gave you the confidence to move forward into your life. It also gave you, I'm sure, maybe you had this before, it gave you a competitive edge. I know you and Nate are both very competitive. I want to know, out of the 4 generations of Blue Hawks, who's the most diehard Blue Hawk fan, do you think?
Oh, I consider myself a pretty diehard Blue Hawk fan, but I don't think you can beat Nate Easton for his diehard Blue Hawk fandom.
Yeah.
He's earned his creds. He goes. he's had many a trip. My wife, his mother, used to say, "Can we send you money for a hotel?" Because he was famous with Parker Robinson and others for going on road trips to your games, Seth, and sleeping in cars in parking lots
in the winter. We'd be going to Montana Tech for our playoff game, and it's.
Yeah, I'm a pretty diehard Blue Hawk fan, but if on that question, I think I'd have to give it to Nate.
We'll give it to Nate. Sure.
You've never slept in a car outside in the winter for that? Come on.
Maybe not for the Blue Hawks.
I don't think so.
Yeah, sometime in the future.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's a thing to look forward to.
Next Blue Hawk playoff game. Next year. Yeah.
Maybe they'll go somewhere warm. I hope.
Or unless it's here.
Yeah. Now it's not just football though. The first sport that I remember having Nate at was volleyball.
Oh, really?
When the Moody's were coaching.
Yeah.
And the volleyball tournament was in Columbia, Missouri, where we were living at the time, and we got all Blue Hawked up, and so Nate's first fandom passion at Dickinson State. Ellie was volleyball, not football.
Yeah.
Wow.
How old was he then?
Oh, pretty young.
Yeah,
I can't remember exactly, but I want to say like 2nd or 3rd grade. And he was all in.
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that national level is so much fun to watch. So I could see it. I could see why I fell in love.
It's Blue Hawk.
Yeah. Bringing it back in. You went.
We could talk for hours.
We could talk for hours about all the different
Nate's
sports
fandom.
here.
Yes.
And yours too. You're pretty passionate. You're a close second, I think. I think we can.
Second.
Yeah, close second. But I mean, you went to school here back in 1980, and you've been back and forth. I mean, obviously Nate went to school here, but what have you seen changed in the university since your time here?
We have esports now, and if you would have told me that we would someday have an esports team back then, I would have said, "What are esports?"
What is
right? Right. So that's a big change. Women's sports have been a big part of Dickinson State, really from the very beginning. But I would have to say that women's sports have grown quite a bit in that time. On the academic side, we were just starting to have an agriculture department, and agriculture is one of our really strong departments. So lots of things, but there's also some things that look pretty familiar.
Yeah. And what are those things?
Yeah.
What's
I
the
mean,
same?
my office is right across the hallway from Dorothy Stickney Auditorium, and they're rehearsing for a play, and that was one of my passions here. And so I watch them rehearse, and that looks that's
fairly
timeless in
Yeah.
a way. I mean, there's some sophistication in the lighting and those sorts of things, but that looks pretty familiar. And I think the most important thing is that Dickinson State is a place where the people care about the students, and that's that is what's special about it, and that was what was special about it when I was here as a student, and it's what's special about it now.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I got, a little somber moment here with the passing of Kobe Bryant this past week. Kind of a basketball legend, one of the most well-known names in the basketball world. I mean, you see the impact that sports have, athletics have, but I mean, individuals in an athletic realm really have on the world. I've seen, you hear stories across the world of what Kobe Bryant has done. I mean, what do athletics mean to this university, and how impactful are individual moments? I know we have the moment for the Olympics, where one of our very own was at the Olympics. I mean, we have these moments in history. How important are those to us here at DSU?
Yeah, and I'm going to answer that question because this is a sports show, but I want to say that there's lots of other things to be passionate about at Dickinson State. So, but this is a sports show. And you take someone like Hank Bijou, right? I mean, who coached all those people and still a big supporter. And athletics brings us a fair number of students. It may have brought us, in some small part, the two student and graduate that I'm sitting next to. And it has had some special moments. The year before we watched I think it was the year before, it might have been 2 years before, we watched the volleyball national championship. Columbia College in Missouri, which was our hometown at that time, was very strong in volleyball too. And I remember Nate was a little younger then, and we were listening to the local Columbia, Missouri radio station, and I'm sure we were the only people listening to that radio station, rooting for Dickinson State, and they and that's the first national championship Dickinson State ever won, and we got cheerful and weepy, and I didn't. When you talk about something that's changed, a national championship is a really treasured thing, and we had 0 at the time that I was here, and there are 4 now, 3 in track and field and one in volleyball, and that just does something for our campus. Athletics have a way of unifying a campus because they involve rivalries. And last week we had basketball game. And presentation is a rival to certain extent, but Mayville's been a rival for a long time. And Mayville was a ranked team. And I went to the men's game. I didn't think. I hoped we might win, but they went on that shooting streak in the middle of the second half, and it's just it just brings a campus together. Not the only thing that brings a campus together, but it can bring a campus together in a really important way.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
And we've been having a pretty good turnout to those basketball games too, so it's exciting to see more student involvement as well.
What other things have you gone to? We've had you've only been here since the beginning of January, not only, but you've been. I guess you were here in December a little bit too. But what other things have you been in attendance to across the many things that are going
Unfortunately,
on.
I missed the musical because that was in December, so I wasn't in town for the musical. But we have the, I'm going to say it wrong, Dead Rhetorician Society, Dead
Rhetoric Society.
Dead Rhetoric
Yep.
Society,
Yep.
where, and I'm going to go to that event tonight. I was able to get to the Student Senate meeting, and I hope to go to a fair number of them in the future. I'm really excited that music is getting rebuilt in a big way. I mean, it was the same event. It was the basketball game, but it had been we had a really good pep band on this weekend, and
Strong, fun to listen to.
yeah, and it really livens up the atmosphere. So the art gallery, I've been to a couple of the events at the art gallery, so I'll be there. Went to a rodeo event, but we were hosting a rodeo event. It was really young cowboys and cowgirls at that event. But,
Well, I've got kind of a fun question I want to ask you.
Okay.
I'm curious to see how you answer this. Who would win in a race between our mascot, Buster the Blue Hawk, and the Stanford mascot? Is it the Stanford tree? Is that what?
It's
is that
sort
what
of.
we'd
That's a
say?
long story
I mean,
that we don't
that's
need to get into. It's actually the Stanford band's mascot. But no, I think you got to go with Buster.
You got to go with Buster.
yeah.
How come?
Right? I mean, Stanford's had some track moments, but three national track titles. I mean, I think you
Yeah.
got to go with Buster.
Yeah,
That's right.
come on.
An Olympian, an Olympic gold medalist. I mean, I think you got to go with
I think
Buster
so
there.
too. Yeah, I would agree with that.
Yeah.
I was curious
Yeah.
to see how you.
It's
How you
also
pick that one?
the tree costumes tend to be fairly clumsy too. So I think
Ours is a little more
Yeah.
fitted. They can run
Yeah.
a little fast. Okay. Yeah.
we actually, and it's funny now having mascots like that is pretty common. Back in my day, there was really only one. There was this character called the San Diego Chicken. And you'll have to look this up, but he was the first person that did the whole mascot thing, and that was relatively fresh in the transition to Blue Hawks. And we thought, we gotta get a Blue Hawk costume. Now the early versions of them weren't nearly as nice as the current Buster, but
Questionable.
Scary.
you know, but I think Buster's gonna win.
Good.
Buster's gonna win.
I'd hope a hawk could fly faster than a tree,
Could run.
or run.
Yeah.
Well, but
Yeah, but
I mean they have
a
the
tree
wing
could-
advantage,
yeah.
you know.
Yeah.
So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Well, just a couple more questions. I know, DSU is going through a bit of, a turning point right now, and one of the first things you had to take on as the interim president was to balance the budget. So, I mean, how difficult was that? What were you thinking as you kind of took this interim position and said, this is my first task? Is a difficult task, but I mean, I know
It's a fair question. I mean, a whole lot of my time up until maybe last week, a huge percentage of my time was dealing with working on getting the budget balanced. And that did involve some elimination of positions, and that's really hard. I mean, some people that have done great things for Dickinson State, simply as a matter of budget realities, their positions were eliminated, and that was hard.
Yeah.
And that's a hit. It's not a hit that we're not going to recover from.
Yeah.
Everybody's going to. Those of us that have jobs at Dickinson State, we all have to work harder now.
Yeah.
And the biggest thing is we need to share the opportunity of being a DSU student with more people. We need more students.
Yeah.
And we just got to get out there and make sure people know what a fantastic opportunity it is to be a student at Dickinson State.
It is a fantastic opportunity. I know it's changed my life.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
exactly. Maybe Hawk Talk. We can start a little student segment.
Well, it is. First of all, that's a really good idea.
Thank you.
Think about
Give me
that.
credit
Think
for
about
that.
having the student of the week that might come and talk about some interesting. And I know your show is
Wheels
really
are turning.
crowded.
Yeah.
But a show like this is important. People see it, and it is a front door for some people to Dickinson State.
Yeah.
So, in all seriousness, it helps.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It helps.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
I'm just happy to be part of it.
Yeah, exactly. It's been fun. I mean, you have finally balanced that budget. You're still working on it a little bit, but what goals do you have for Dickinson moving into the future?
So I have there's people that say have big hairy goals, have really big goals, and I think that it has to be our goal to get back to 2,000 students. Not 2,800, which we had at one point, because that's not really sustainable, but 2,000.
2,000.
We're at 1,350-ish head count, or 1,090 on full-time equivalent. So that's a big goal, and I don't mean to suggest we're going to get there next year or the year after that, but that'll be when we get on the way there. That'll open up some programs. There's some exciting things that are, we're bringing Pulver Hall. We got a special authorization. Pulver Hall was originally set up as a dorm for Dickinson State, and then when the Vietnam War ended and college populations everywhere went way down. You may not even know what that's related to, but the reason that college populations went way up during the Vietnam War is you could basically avoid being drafted if you were a full-time college student. And so Dickinson State and other schools saw their enrollments, basically every school in the country. And so Pulver Hall went offline, and it was being used by others. But we're in about 2.5 years. Pulver Hall will be the residence facility for the Theodore Roosevelt Honors Leadership Program. And it will also have on its main floor, there'll be some museum space related to Theodore Roosevelt, and it'll house the Theodore Roosevelt Center, which is digitizing the records of President Roosevelt. And so that's the thing that's already on the horizon. And so I guess I don't know. I can't claim it as a goal, but it's a thing where that we can look forward to. That's going to be a real exciting thing for us.
That is exciting.
Absolutely. Well, we got one more question. It's the last question. It's the question we always ask. It's become the staple to Hawk Talk. I know we're going to have a great answer from you. I do actually want to know the quote. That's a quote you've referred to yourselves. The Eastons have something, the Bushes have something.
Oh yes,
and I want to hear this quote intertwined in with. Because
Dickinson State's been so important to our family, what I often tell people is that the Kennedys have Harvard, and the Bushes have Yale, and the Eastons have Dickinson State. And the Eastons always say to each other, "We did pretty well in the bargain. We're not trading. We're not trading for either Harvard or Yale. We're pretty happy to have Dickinson State."
Absolutely, I love that. Well, to close it all out, I want to know, what does DSU mean to you? In just a few words, or in a lot of words, what does it mean?
It has just made such a tremendous difference in my life, and in the lives of people very close to me, my father and my grandmothers and my son. And so all of us who love it need to make sure that it continues to be a special place that can make that kind of difference in other people's lives.
Absolutely.
Wow. It turns lives around. Dickinson State turns lives around.
Well, thank you so much for coming onto our show.
I think we have a little,
from the audience. We have a cool shirt for you.
Oh, excellent.
Yeah, it says I flew on Hawk Talk.
You've now flown on Hawk Talk.
Officially.
You have to earn that. You can't just go buy that shirt.
Right.
No, you have to earn it, and you did. Yeah, so thank you again, and we're so excited to see what new changes are coming in from the university from you, and it was great to have you on the show.
Thanks a
lot. Looking forward to maybe a little more
Thank
future.
you.
Thanks a lot.
Great to see you.
Yeah, we'll be right back after this.
Hey guys, it's Tyler with Immovable Ministries here, and I'm so excited to be able to be the sponsor for this year's Hawk Talk. If you'd like to find out more about Immovable Ministries, you can visit our website at immovableministries.com.
Hi, and welcome back. As you can see, we found Coulter.
I was out in the parking lot someplace.
Yeah, he just likes to leave sometimes, but I mean, he's back.
I'm back.
Yeah, as you can see, we have a very special guest. Can you go ahead and introduce yourself, where you're from, and what you do here at DSU?
I am Josh Nichols. I am a Dickinson State alum, but I'm also a native to Dickinson, I think. But I think you have to be like a 5th or 6th generation, you know?
Right.
So I started the 2nd grade in Dickinson, but I've been here a long time, and I currently am the website communications specialist for Dickinson State, along with the new esports coordinator, and so I'm managing that program.
Right. So how did you get involved in Dickinson State, at Dickinson State?
Like as a student, or you mean as an employee?
Yeah, as a student. I mean, what drew you there?
So I went to Dickinson State as a student because it just happened to be in my hometown, and so that's what you do after high school is you go to college. And
Right.
I remember showing up to my Dickinson-only session of orientation, where they're like pretty much like, here's the building, and you already know everything about the city because go back. So I remember going to that. I got a degree in computer science, minor in communications, and during my time at DSU, I dabbled in a lot of different things, theater, just like President Easton, except he claims that he wasn't very good. I only claim I was perfection. You know, I mean, so we got a different path, different story.
Right.
Yeah, so I was involved in quite a few things, and when I graduated from Dickinson State, I started with the TRIO program. Since then, I've worked as a marketing specialist at the Strom Center, website coordinator, all those types of things. So I dabble. Wherever they give me the paycheck, I'll meander. So
Perfect. So I feel like a lot of people are kind of like President Easton. So what exactly is esports?
Esports is a little bit tough to define and to break
Yeah.
down for people. There are a lot of differences between a traditional sport and esports specifically, but there's a lot of similarities. We treat the program just like any other sport on campus as much as possible. There are eligibility requirements, we have practices, the teammates get a jersey, we play against other institutions, but there's a lot of differences as well. You know, I almost consider myself, I'm not going to compare myself to an athletics director. I mean, I'm no Pete Stanton, but you know, in that way, I'm managing multiple sports underneath the esports heading. So you wouldn't compare basketball to golf to football. Those are different sports. They require different training regimens
Right.
And different coaches. Well, we have multiple games under esports. So sometimes people think, oh, you're playing esports, you know, and that's just one thing, but it's actually multiple games. So we actually play 4 games right now: Apex Legends, Fortnite, Rocket League, and Rainbow Six. And within there, we get to compete against institutions across the nation. That's one other difference between esports from a traditional standpoint versus the esports standpoint, is that, you know, we compete against University of Alabama, Boise State, Full Sail, and Florida. We don't have any restrictions on that. So sometimes even losing is really, really fun because we get to compete with some of the big boys. And so it's kind of an interesting experience. Each of those esports themselves, the games, have different requirements. So our Rocket League team is performing pretty well right now, but they are actually, they've been involved in 5 different tournaments with 5 different rule sets just within that one game. And so it gets pretty complex pretty quickly.
Wow.
And
Wow.
am I correct? Rocket League is a game, right?
Yeah, so
Yes.
Rocket League
Okay.
is essentially soccer with cars, and so you
Oh.
bump the side. So you might have
Okay,
seen that around.
yes.
And you know, I mean, for me, a lot of these games when I first started, I didn't, you know, play them myself, or I didn't have the depth of knowledge. We don't have any specific esport coaches right now. We've been, you know, building a program from scratch. You take advantage of different methods to try to make the program grow. And so for Rocket League as an example, we were actually able to hire for a subset of hours one of the top coaches in the nation. He actually
whoa.
teaches one of the top, you know, I would say 5 to 10 teams in the nation. And he's like, yeah, I got some extra time in my calendar. I'm like, can we hire you for a little bit? We're never going to be able to hire him full time at Dickinson State. We're not going to, I mean, he's going to require a salary larger than mine for a couple hours. And so well, not a couple hours. I don't want to think people are going to think we spent $40 million or something like that. But we were able to pick him up for a few hours. So 1 or 2 hours with a one-on session with him is more valuable than a whole semester with me. And so we're able to do some really unique training methods and things like that. Also, esports is kind of nice because we have a 24-hour-a-day lab that students can use and train and play games anytime they want. So it's kind of a neat setup.
It is. It's super awesome. I know you guys have those custom PCs, all super awesome.
Yeah.
So exactly how many athletes are part of this esports team?
It's a moving target right now.
Okay.
We're looking at adding different games, and one of the things that we can do with esports that's a little different, and unless the tournament prohibits, we can have multiple teams. So as an example, we have a Rainbow Six team that's composed of 5 people, and we'll eventually be able to add backup individuals to that roster. But if we get enough interest, we can add a second team. And so for Apex last year, we had 3 teams. For Fortnite, we had 5 duos that competed. So you can actually have multiple teams within an individual individual sport. And so what was your initial question?
I mean, just how many athletes
Oh,
are
how
there?
many? Oh, yeah. Okay. See, I get ahead of myself because I get so excited about esports. I just want to talk about it. So, as far as the number of athletes, it's been a moving target. We have, I'm going to say, about 25 athletes across 6 to 7 teams right now. I actually just signed somebody up today, so it's constantly moving. And a current student is being signed up, and we're also recruiting for fall 2020, trying to get new students. So, 25 roughly players, about 6 to 7 teams, and 4 different games.
Right, and you were just talking about recruiting a little bit.
Yes.
How do you go about recruiting these athletes?
Well, as we're starting the new program, it's like, hello, you're a warm body, you play video games, and you have a good GPA? Wonderful. Join the team. It's great. And the reason we're pulling from our resources right now, which I say that flippantly, but we actually have some really great athletes right now as far as competitors for the various games. But we're really taking anyone that is interested in the gaming to develop the core teams. It's very difficult for me to recruit somebody 5 states away and say, hey, would you mind coming to Dickinson State? And then they get here and we're like, yeah, we didn't have enough people for that team. So we can't really entice them with something and then not deliver on it. So I'm trying to develop a core team of current DSU students with that interest level. Once that's established, then we'll start recruiting for the following fall semester for athletes to join new incoming freshmen to kind of be that succession line of players.
Do you guys ever use Twitch as like a recruiting tool, like saying, kind of like how a football player has their own personal film? You guys have your own film in Twitch. Do you guys use that as a recruiting tool at all?
Yeah, so we're going to be a little bit more diligent about some of our recruiting tactics. Eventually we'll be adding, a little bit better tryouts and some of those types of things. Right now, it's really nice that I don't have to travel across the country to go see somebody's footage. I mean, they're sending me demo reels. I can go to their Twitch channel. I can see how they interact. And that's whether or not they're good players, whether or not they're good teammates, whether or not they can hold it together on camera and not, curse and swear and do all sorts of stuff. So I can figure all that out just from looking at their Twitch channel. We utilize Twitch heavily. We try to stream all of our games on Twitch. So twitch.tv/Dickinson State U. You can also go to bluehawkesports.com. We try to stream stuff there, but we also encourage our players to be involved in their own streaming if they would like to. So long term, I'd love to add some academic programs at Dickinson State regarding esport entrepreneurship, streaming, broadcasting, and those types of things. And we had a couple students who said, hey, we got this other competition we want to compete in. It's got a prize pool, but it's not really collegiate. I'm like, please join. Is there a way that we can help you? Is there a way that we can promote you? That's different than some of the other regulations you might find with like an NCAA or NAIA where they prohibit certain types of activities. Right now, NACE, our National Association of Collegiate Esports, is the organization that has the most firm rule set, and they're still developing things because it's just such a brand new industry.
Gotcha.
Yeah, that's pretty crazy.
I did not know anything about that, so that's
Yeah.
super cool to learn about.
We'll be back next week on our 3rd-part series of esports, but it's Josh talks too much. It gets complex really quickly, and that's why for me it's very difficult to explain to somebody what esports is, and some of it's just about watching it. And just like with any athletic sport, you might gravitate towards basketball but not football, or you might like volleyball but you're not really a golf person. And that's the same thing with games. You might tune in and see Rocket League and you're like, well, this is stupid, it's like soccer with little cars. But you might watch our Apex channel and be like, this is really cool, this is really neat how all this is happening in this kind of battle royale setting. So you can kind of tailor your viewership just like you would with any other sport on campus.
Have you ever competed in esports at all, or?
I have not competed professionally in esports. I dabble in the privacy of my own home with things like Mario Brothers and dying on the first world. I remember when I first got the NES when I was a little kid, we didn't realize you could go down pipes. So I remember we got to the warp section and we couldn't figure out how to go down the pipe, and we just timed out. And it was like, I've come so far to be the esports coordinator from not being able to figure out how to go down a pipe.
That's okay.
So yeah, I don't do anything professionally, but I'm definitely a gamer at heart. I love watching games. I love playing games. I'm not nearly as good as the players we have right now. Our Rocket League team right now is in a competition, and there's 446 other teams, and they're one of the top 30 right now,
Oh, wow.
which will seed them into the playoffs. So
Wow.
That is exciting.
So we got a little bit of a fun question here for you.
but they've all been fun so far. Don't sell yourself short. These are great.
So if you were to pick any video game character and like portray them as yourself, who are you picking?
Any video game character.
Like any series character, like Mario?
I'm gonna say this one, and it's probably not accurate, but I'm gonna say Wario.
Okay.
The reason being is I'm chubby, but I'm also a little sinister sometimes.
Okay. Okay.
I think that encompasses me. I don't know. I think for me, video game characters you know, it's the ones that you want to aspire to be versus the ones you think you are. It's like
Right.
a game like, who are you? Who do other people think you are? And so, I don't know, maybe a Wario. I don't. That's a tough question. Who do you think you are?
Who do I think I am?
Yeah.
I don't know. I'm kind of thinking, like, when I get older, I feel like a Sully from Uncharted.
Oh, okay, yeah, that could be good. I like it.
Yeah.
Yeah, see, you know, I'm gonna change my answer. I think that I'm the little ball in Pong that just gets bashed about in life. It's just when I'm going one direction, I zig and I zag.
Right, right. How about you, Ellie?
I don't know. I don't play a lot of video games.
What about, like, Princess Peach? You know her, right?
Yeah, I know who Princess Peach is. I don't think I am Princess Peach.
So you don't play any video games? Games
when-
on your phone?
When I was younger, I would play Halo with my dad.
Oh.
Yeah.
Whoa.
Oh,
Yeah.
see, that's a way. Sometimes I'll talk to students and I'm like, you know, and their parents, and I'm like, you don't play any games like at all. And a lot of them play some sort of game, they just don't consider it gaming. I even talked to a couple parents, I asked their child, I'm like, you know, do you play video games on your PC or your console or your phone? Do you play emotional games with friends and family? Any game of any sort? And they're like, no, we don't. And I was talking to the dad later, I'm like, I'm surprised you've never played any game. He's like, oh, well, you know, my wife and I, we play Ark, you know, and that's this kind of survival game, and you purchase your own server, and I'm like, I know that, and we had a great conversation. But just like, you know, I did a lot of work with artists in the state. I was part of an arts advocacy group for a while, and a lot of artists don't consider themselves artists. You know, they might be saddle makers or quilt makers or painters, but they're like, well, that's just a hobby. That's not anything special. And I think sometimes people sell themselves short, and so a lot of our esport players that are getting involved in this, sometimes I have to convince them that they're as good as they actually are.
Right.
And they just don't see themselves. They're like, well, I just play games as a hobby. But I'm like, do you realize the dexterity and the reaction skills that you have? And you try to sell that up to them to make them realize their potential.
All right.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, I mean, you kind of built this esports team from the ground up. It's been really fun to see. What kind of things do you want to see in the future, like say in the next 5 years?
Well, I would just love to see the program continue to exist and continue to grow. That's, I mean, it seems like a very baseline goal, but to have any new emerging sport is going to be difficult to even keep. You know, we have the advantage of certain things with finances. Once you buy the PCs, they last for a certain amount of time. You don't have to replace that equipment as often as maybe some other sports. The software licensing, you know, we have some advantages there. Long term, I would love to see Dickinson have a space that is an arena space that could hold more people. I mean, some of our competitions now, the Rocket League tournament, and we actually have a Fortnite tournament coming up. And if you place in those tournaments the top 3 or top 5, depending on the tournament, you go to a DreamHack conference, and I think it might be in Atlanta, this one, or it's in Anaheim or one of those things. And I mean, there's tens of thousands of people in an arena setting with jumbotrons playing these games. And I mean, what a cool space. If we could have something in town like that, which I believe the city's been looking like some sort of an event center or civic center where we can have Broadway productions tour through, and we can have a 5,000 person esport event.
Wow.
That would be really neat. And so I would love to continue to collaborate with the city and Dickinson State, and also receive state and grant funding to try to make those things come true to fruition. And also the Dickinson State University Heritage Foundation. I mean, they've already committed to raise $1 billion for esports, and so you know, I think, or something like that. So we'll see if any of them are in the room listening.
So, as a new coach, what lessons have you really learned from this whole process?
This is my first dabbling. I was not an athlete myself. Again, I was in theater, but I did not, you know, do the whole athletic arena. And I think there's some crossover with the various activities like theater or sports, but definitely on the coaching end or the directing end of theater, you learn a whole different skill set. And it's the herding cat scenario, trying to wrangle in all these players. You know, when you're a coach of a single team, let's say that you're, you know, a basketball coach and you have 20 or 30 people, you have one sport, one direction, one rule set, you have, you know, kind of some guiding principles, and you've had people that have gone before you. I mean, you know, you have Hank Bijou, who has laid groundwork, and there was individuals before him that laid the groundwork for him. I have nobody, so I'm just kind of, you know, going on the fly and kind of shooting from the hip, trying to figure things out. And so for me, I've learned that you don't know as much as you think you know, but it's really easy to find it out because every sport activity has a great community and a great infrastructure, and across the nation, colleges are being very collaborative. I've been trying to help, there's a group of high schools that are trying to start esports and do a North Dakota conference, and I've been trying to be very supportive of how can I help you, how can we do stuff to make this happen, because it's only going to help our program to help them succeed.
Right.
Great.
Do you have any funny stories from like the different games that you guys play? Do you have any just funny stories or bloopers?
Well, we have all sorts of bloopers. You know, I'm going to talk about maybe something I can say on camera, but no. One of the things we do when we do the live streaming is that was one thing that I didn't trust. Was allowing the players to have the audio from their chats actually on live stream, because you just don't know what somebody's going to say, and so we kind of cut that off. But I get to hear things off camera that the general audience doesn't get to hear. But one thing that I think has been really cool with our teams is they have a great relationship with each other, and then we've actually been building a nice little audience on Twitch that have been tuning into the games. And so John Haraldson was on the show I think last semester, and if you go to bluehawkesports.com, you can look at our store, which we have a lot of John Haraldson apparel with his face on it, and you can purchase that. And so one of the things we're doing with our players is if they have a meme or a catchphrase that they say during the games, we're going to be making apparel and mouse pads and all that sort of stuff so that we can have a different sort of fandom, which with some sports you really don't get that for an individual player basis, but our teams are so small that we're able to give a little bit more one-on-one attention that way.
I'm surprised you didn't even plug your own merch. I mean, the Josh has his T-shirt. I was getting a little prepared for this interview, and I was like, I'm gonna go check out their store. So I checked, and I saw a BH Delta or John Haraldson. That's what he goes by on Twitch. But I saw the Josh has his T-shirt.
Yes, I do have the Josh T-shirt. A long time ago, I started giving out autographed photos of myself, and that sort of took off a little bit, and then the shirt came about. But one funny story, and so I'm going to tie the show together here, since we had President Easton on. When President Easton moved into the president's residence, he was telling me this story that everything was cleared out of the residence. There was nothing left. There's no items in the house except for one. And it was an autographed picture of me hanging on the wall. Because I had given that to President Mitzel, and he left it. And so I don't know if I was to be hurt by the fact that he left that, or if I was to, be honored that, Mr. Easton received it. But so my photo has been circulated.
That's perfect.
That is awesome. I mean, you heard us ask President Easton this, but what really does DSU mean to you?
I've thought back on my time at Dickinson State, and Dickinson State has always meant new opportunities for me. So as a student, when I first came to DSU, I came to a Dickinson session that was it was a cut-down version of orientation. I came to campus, I did my classes, I went home. I wasn't involved in any way, and I ended up getting involved with the trio program, and they required me to do certain things, and I had to go to a play. It was the first play that I ever watched in my entire life. I wasn't involved in theater in high school, and since then I was asked to audition. I got involved in theater. I've been in dozens of shows. I direct now, and that changed a whole trajectory of my interests. I'm going to be going on a road trip in March, chasing Broadway shows, and that's just a vacation for me because I enjoy theater so much. And that was something I would have never experienced. I was a little bit more timid. I wasn't somebody that was going to get up and lead a group or lead in that way. But I got involved. We started the DSU Filmmakers on campus. We had our own club in org. I got involved with different leadership opportunities. That was a change. And even with my career, being able to go, from different positions, from trio to marketing specialist to now starting an esports program from scratch with, a tertiary knowledge of games and, 100 lives lost on Mario in a sitting or something like that. So it's always meant new opportunities for me, and that's one thing that I appreciate about Dickinson State is the ability for them to embrace change. Change is hard. And North Dakota isn't known, it's not the state of change. That is not what they're known for. We like things the way that they are, but Dickinson State has really embraced that. The esports space right now used to be a meeting room, and before that it was a gym that was barely utilized, and it has now been converted. And so it's something that we're always looking to change and address things. President Easton mentioned the Stickney Auditorium, the stage, used to be a basketball court, and then they repurposed it and made it theater. I mean, they embraced the theater program at that time. So that Dickinson State is a place of change, and it has changed my life.
That's super cool.
Yeah.
That's a soundbite for the social media.
Seriously.
Yeah. Super cool.
Yeah. Well, we love hearing that, and I mean, I think it can go for a lot of people that have been on this show and that attend DSU right now.
Like Seth said, it changed his life too, being on Hawk Talk and going to DSU. I think that's super cool.
Yeah.
The other thing that changed it, I wasn't sure if you were going to bring it up or not, but I am the 10th annual Mr. Blue Hawk
Oh my gosh, yes.
winner. And and this was one of those opportunities for me to embrace change again, because the Theodore Roosevelt Honors Leadership Program decided that they were no longer going to hold the Mr. Blue Hawk competition, which was a change I embraced because I will be the last and reigning Mr. Blue Hawk.
You heard it here, the reigning Mr. Blue Hawk.
Can I get a picture of you saying that? Sign, please.
I could do that. I could do that.
Perfect.
I think I have an email signature, for my DSU email. But
Yes.
yeah, if that ever changes, I'm going to be the person that chains myself to May Hall and pickets against it, because I'm not losing my title that easy.
Yeah.
Perfect. Well, we got a gift for you.
Oh, wonderful.
I'm going to try to
There
catch
we
it.
go.
Yes.
Ellie
Well,
caught it. Perfect.
thank you so much for coming on with us. You're gonna have to show this off. Wear this too.
I will absolutely.
You
Yeah.
and you and Conky. As
Oh,
Yeah,
absolutely.
seriously, you're gonna
We'll
have
have
to
to-
I would love
represent
to.
a little bit. But thank you again so much for coming on, and we're excited to see what esports is gonna become, and maybe we can tune in on Twitch.
I've been watching on Twitch. You've never been watching on Twitch?
I need to. I'll
She was
get there.
caught. Well, here's the thing.
I
We're
was
going to
caught.
have both of you down to the lab, and maybe we'll have you compete or get some training from our esports
Yes.
athletes.
Yeah.
If we're playing
Show you the
Fortnite, you're
ropes.
done.
Yeah, let's go.
All right,
Yeah.
perfect.
Well, thank you again.
You're welcome.
Thank you very
We'll
much.
be right back for a recap after this. Hi, and we're back with a pretty quick recap here.
Very short recap.
Yeah. You want to start off?
So we got basketball. They're going to be away this week. They got presentation and Mayville. So both boys and girls hopefully get a W right there. Track is off this weekend, so everybody's going to get rested up right there. And I think wrestling, they're going to go to the Missouri.
Nope, Sioux City.
Sioux City,
Yep, they have
that's
the
what it
Sioux
is.
City invite. So
That's what it
we're
is.
excited to watch them compete. We have the bike-a-thon coming up still, so go ahead and get registered for that as soon as you can.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, I think that's everything for Hawk Talk. We love both of our guests this week. That was so much fun,
They
and we
were
learned
super good
yeah,
interviews.
Yeah, we learned a lot from both of them. So yes, thank you. And as always,
Hawks
Hawks
are
are
up.
up.